It was actually really simple. I've been working with people. This has got to be my 48th year beginning now across the world. And I have the privilege of recognizing there's only so many patterns. While the brain has infinite complexity, it's not completely complex in terms of the mind. And so over the years, I've developed a series of processes to help people kind of develop what is their true north for them, not for me, and shift their values so that they're naturally pulled in the direction of what they really want at this stage, as opposed to what their conditioning has to do with. And so, as you well know, we don't experience life. We experience the life we focus on. In every moment, what's wrong is always available, so is what's right. A compelling future is everything. Because without that, you can have an aim, by the way, but if it's not compelling, it's not going to do much.
Well, and you demonstrate in the physiology of your lectures the fact that compelling aspect is possible and real.
Yes.
Right.
But I also get them to experience it once again. If they just watch me, I'm not here to be their role model examples. I'm not here to be your guru. I'm here to be your friend. I have some insights. You have insights. We can learn from each other, right? But the idea of getting in a state of mind where you're in a heightened state of consciousness because your energy increases. Think about it. When your energy drops, usually negative thoughts grow with that pretty massively, right? Self-negative thoughts about society. As you raise the energy level, it's like plugging into a computer. You have the greatest computer, but not enough electricity. But if there's full electricity, there's power there. And most of us have gotten adjusted to a level of energy, especially post-COVID, that we don't even realize because we're like fish in water. It has dropped massively. When I walk around into companies, that's why engagement became so important to me. There's just not the same level of engagement. And no one's trying to deliberately do it. They were conditioned for 4 years to sit still in front of a computer and do anything. And many people before that weren't doing anything. It just magnified it. But when the energy increases, that's my first job, your consciousness increases with that frequency of intensity. Hope and excitement are wonderful things, but you need competency as well. And in order to have that, the hope can get you started, give you the drive, the vision, the aim, but you've got to have the execution. You have both the strategy and you've got to have the execution that's practiced in your nervous system. Drive is like, everyone is motivated. If you're overweight, you're motivated to eat, right? Come on. I want to find out what drives you. In other words, somebody say, I want to make $1 billion, but they don't do it. And they even vision to get excited about it, $1 million, whatever it is. I want to have 3 perfect children. I want to write a book, whatever. The secret is reasons come first, answers come second. Once I know what I want, I got to figure out why.
Yes.
Because purpose is stronger than object. So the object may inspire you, but what's going to keep you going is strong enough reasons when it's tough. What are the reasons? Okay, I want this money. For what? Well, I want to provide a home for my mom. Well, that's very different than I just want to have this pieces of paper with pictures of dead people on it, right? And people say, I want money. They don't want money. They want an emotion. They want an impact. They want security, or they want freedom, or they want to be able to contribute, or they want to do something they think money will give them more choices on, right? So it's a combination of that aim, those values, that drive you and I are talking about, that ignite, enough reasons for it, and then the strategies to execute, because you'll eventually find your way there, but the speed at which you do it is if I believe in modeling. I believe success leaves clues. My original teacher, Jim Rohn, taught me that. He said, if someone is successful at anything, they've got a great relationship and it's 20 years down the line and they still do it, or they lost weight and kept it off for 10 years, or they went from nothing to not just making money, but sustaining financial security and freedom for their family. They're not lucky. They're doing something different than you are. I mean, you will figure it out if you can discipline your disappointment. If you can push yourself beyond what most people give up on, you're going to get there eventually. You're going to keep flexing. But you'll get there 10 times faster if you can say, wow, there's already a pathway that's been proven. Why would I reinvent the wheel? I'll still bring myself to it, my own uniqueness to it. But there's certain fundamentals that if you do them, you're going to have economic abundance. If you don't, you're going to have pain. It's a lack of clarity usually. Right? There's not a clear aim. There's not enough reasons. Poor strategy, but ultimately what really stops people, and what I do with people in events, is I find the inner conflict. The inner conflict is what's keeping them from executing.
And sometimes means they're actually living out multiple stories simultaneously, and they don't have the same aim.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's okay too. It doesn't have to all be the same story, but there has to be some unifying element to what matters most to you for you to live an extraordinary quality of life. Again, life on your terms. What you think extraordinary. Is that 3 children? Is that writing a book? Is that building a business? Is that all the above? I don't know.
Okay, so
it's got to be on your terms. So many people have great philosophical understanding, but they don't execute. And I'm a big believer that knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. Execution dwarfs and trumps knowledge every day of the week. So I am a accelerant for the activation of moving forward, not just the understanding. That educate them with the best tools. So I don't just say, oh, here's how you're gonna do financially. I go out and I interview 50 of the smartest financial people on earth, and I teach them their strategy. And they're like, oh my God, or like, everybody wants to do well financially and they have more freedom. Well, anyone get their compounding, right? You can take a child, 19-year-old, and say, put $300 aside. Sounds like a lot, but you're living at home. Put that $300 aside, put it in the market, in the S&P. It's averaged 10% over the last 100 years. And guess what? They do that from 19 to 27, and they can stop. They put in $28,000. Their friend starts at 27 when they stop and has to go to 65. They put in $140,000. The first guy's got 1.8 million at retirement. The second guy, who's put more money in, he's only got 1.2 in that experience, right? There's a holy grail. That's the name of the book, because there's a holy grail of investing. Anytime you can find 8 to 12 uncorrelated investments. In other words, stocks and bonds usually are uncorrelated. If stocks are going up, bonds are less, vice versa, right? If you can find 8 to 12 of those, you reduce your risk by 80% and you increase your upside with nothing else. It's like, where do the wealthiest people put their money? Where they're gonna get the most return with the least risk, right? The average person doesn't have access to what they have. Private equity. If you look at the last 37 years of stock markets all over the world, basic private equity has outstripped every stock market in the world for 37 straight years. Private equity means they buy private companies, they build them up, they add value, and then they sell the company for a multiple or they take it public. For people who don't understand, that's what I mean by private, as opposed to the stock market. Those individuals have more flexibility. If you want to see what wealthy people do, 46% of their assets are in private assets, private credit, private equity. Because if you look at the Fortune 400, the wealthiest people in the world, here's the pattern. Which industry has the most billionaires? It's not tech, which is what a lot of people think. It's not real estate. It's financial services. And it's not hedge funds, because they go up and down. It's private equity. So I found this out. You invest your money in the S&P 500, and over the last 37 years, your average compounding has been 10.7%, which is really nice. Basic private equity, not the guys I interviewed for this book. I interviewed this book on the Holy Grail. I interviewed the 10, 12 top people in the world, the best guys that have produced returns plus 20% for 25 years compounded. It's unheard of, right? So guess what? S&P is 10.7. Basic private equity, not these guys, have averaged 15.7. So imagine compounding 50% faster per year. If you put $1 million in 30 years ago on the S&P, it's worth $42 million today. If you put $1 million at the same time, same amount of money in private equity, it's worth $223 million if you did basic private equity. So then I go a step further and go, how do I get people in there? And then I fortunately saw that, right, you probably know there's something called an accredited investor, these levels that the government has where you don't get access to the best investments unless you have a certain amount of money, $1 million, a certain level of income. Well, it doesn't make sense, because how many business people you know are good business people but not great investors, or if someone inherited their money? So they don't have these skills, but they get to do this. They get to have this kind of return. So I was pushing for it. It didn't come from me. It just happened. It's like, why? This is so unfair. Congress last year decided, why don't we give people a test they can study for? And if they pass the test, they got the education. It's not that complex. Now they can have investments that could grow 50% faster. So it's not just understanding. It's everything I do has got to be philosophy and strategy. It's one of the things I respect about you. A lot of people teach philosophy and then you understand it. And philosophy helps you to understand the why and have meaning. It's critical. But if you don't have the strategy, you're not going to execute.
Right. And some people teach strategy without philosophy.
That's right. And so they know how to do it. They don't know why to do it, right? So it's the combination.
A lot of the corporate world's like that.
And so my world is constantly modeling the best. I'm no idiot. I know most people in the world are not really physically fit. They're not really happy. They're not in a passionate relationship. They're not earning what they think they should earn. That is most people. But there's a few who do. And I mentioned the few who do versus the many who talk, so I can take their models and bring it to the person who can now be one of the few who do also if they choose to. Instead of waiting for life to show up, I say, have a way to measure, are you on the path? Here's how you know if you're on the path. First question, you and I'd be so aligned on this. What is your deepest desire now? Let's awaken that. Let's find the reasons for it. What do you want now? Because desire sets the tone of the story. Is my desire to serve God? Is my desire to build a family? Is my desire to, whatever it is, that sets the tone. So we activate that. Then the second step that we take you through is face the truth, which is what has stopped you in the past? And Jordan, I found relatively, there's only a few things, maybe 5. It's like fear. That's why you didn't do it. Or it's a limiting belief or story. All the good ones are gone. I've tried everything. It's not true, but you believe it, so you don't act on it. Or it could be a different emotion. It could be an emotion like, overwhelm, stress, something of that nature that keeps you moving forward. Or it could be a habit. You want to lose 30 pounds, but you go to Starbucks and get a smoke and mocha, whatever, every morning. It's not going to work. Or you're missing a skill. Right? You just don't know how to manage it. No one taught you what to do in those areas, right? Yeah. So there's only a few things. So once you have enough driving desire and reasons and you take on the path, you're on the path now, you know what you want. Second step to keep on the path is knowing what's prevented you. Next step is build a map, a massive action plan. Not a perfect plan, just what are the 2 or 3 things that'll get you momentum? What can you do right now? What's it going to do that's difficult? What can you do that's easy? You got to, step 4 is you got to do the hard work. You got to slay the dragons. You got to actually get the skill. You got to push through whatever that limiting belief or fear is. Once you've done that, the rest is easy. Now all you need is a daily practice, like priming. You now have some daily practices that keep you on the target. Then you measure ruthlessly, because you can't manage something you don't measure. And then you celebrate.